That's how we're supposed to start.
Is it? Oh, okay, good.
That's how I start all my videos.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I like it. That's why I'm here.
I know, that's why you're
Right.
here. My friends, I am here with my friend Mike Boland today in Las Vegas.
Yes.
He had
I'm
an
in
event.
town. I'm in town.
He's a big deal. That's what I keep hearing. So, he had an event here over. Are we in the weekend? Yes.
Yes,
So
we
it was
are.
Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Thursday evening. They had an event here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Rented a penthouse. One of the things that I do is I do these events on, a pretty regular basis, although I don't have a schedule for them. So I do the event where I pair it up with a social media influencer, and then, I'll plan the event, host it, and then the social media influencer to some degree promotes the event, on their various channels. So we get a really great mix of people that show up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And this last one was, isn't he an author?
Yes, he's an author, filmmaker, has an incredibly engaged and large social media following. Kind of guy. He's been interviewed on 60 Minutes, been profiled in every magazine, reported from the White House. I mean, just
Wow.
very, very connected guy.
Yeah.
So, so that event was a lot of fun. It brought in some really interesting, creative folks, and you have so many of them here in Las Vegas.
The very interesting, creative people, for sure.
Yes.
Was
yeah.
there a lot of locals?
We had maybe 3 or 4 locals out of 48 people.
Wow, so everybody else
So
flew in.
Everybody flew in for the event.
I love that.
Beyond that, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, we had all kinds of people there. I mean, we had a guy who, franchises auto repair shops. We had a guy who, 3 or 4 published authors, 2 filmmakers. We had maybe 5 people from Los Angeles come all in the creative fields in Los Angeles. So we do get a really interesting, mix of folks.
And are those repeat people coming to your events, or those?
No, because each event I do with a different person. So I get a handful of people, maybe 5 to 10 people who come, on the real estate side of things, just wanting to talk real estate, talk investing, things like that. So I do get some of that that will come maybe to one event, not come to the next one, and then come to another event. But generally speaking, it's a different set of folks each time, and I think that's why these events have become more and more popular.
Yeah.
Like this particular event's the 5th one I've done this year, and this was the first one that sold out. I mean, tickets are not cheap. I mean, it's not like a $20 ticket or something.
They were a couple $100.
Right.
They're not expensive. though,
Not
either.
crazy expensive.
No.
We keep like general admission tickets under $200. We did a VIP ticket where we had a little light lunch at the casino, and then we brought in a casino consultant. So they literally have these guys. This is interesting. I'm sure you know this living here, but there are guys.
Casino host?
Well, it's not even a host. It's like a guy. You hire the guy,
Okay.
and if you say you're going to go spend a bunch of money in Vegas, I don't know what a bunch of money is. It's different for everybody, but there's these guys that literally come and play craps with you. They play poker with you. They play roulette, whatever you want to play, and they know the odds like in their head, and they tell you, oh, this is a good bet, don't bet right now bet, and so we hired this guy who came, and he literally came and with all the VIPs, and so we had 8 guys around the, I shouldn't say 8 guys, 8 men and women around the craps table, and we had this man showing us how to bet. So,
And how did the casino feel about that?
oh, they love it.
Oh, they didn't have any problems with the guy trying to coach you through it?
No, they loved it.
Okay, well,
So,
they must know him.
yeah, I'm sure they
Yeah.
do, so yeah.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So you did that for your VIP guests.
Right, we did that for the VIP guests during the day, so we do a lunch and then went and played craps. And then after that, then, it settles down for a few hours, and then we had a penthouse that we rented on the top floor. I mean, the place was amazing.
Yeah.
Like and you know this, you live here.
I know.
Vegas is insane. I mean, and these hotel rooms are
You can
insane.
get anything you want.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
And so this hotel room was like 4,500 square feet. It had a pool table, like a billiard area, a big TV area, like a media area, and then had a 2,500 square foot deck with a swimming pool hanging over the edge.
I am familiar with that. Yes.
So it's like, and you talk real estate. I mean,
know.
Las Vegas real estate, it's got to be mind-bending for you sometimes.
I
with
love
some of
it.
the stuff that you deal with.
I love it. I grew up here. It's amazing. It's my home.
Yeah.
So Mike, as you're telling me about these events, what's the purpose in these events? Because you know, I this Pack Leaders a Real Estate Project group that I promote.
Sure.
It's about relationship, and that is it is building brand with social media through relationships to
Yes.
make money. It is about relationship and who you are in contact with. It kind of sounds like that's a lot of what that your whiskey and cigars event are about.
Right. I've learned.
Connections.
Yeah, I've learned over the years, and I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars personally on going to seminars and conventions and coaching, junkets, etc. And not where I'm doing it, but where I'm, whether it be a Tony Robbins
You're a
event
student.
or a real estate event or whatever. I'm going as a student.
Yeah.
And what I found over the years and over all this money that I spent is a lot of times the content's good, but even when the content's not good, the most valuable piece of going to these events was always in the evening when you're going out to like dinner. You go to a nice steakhouse, or you go grab sushi, and you spend 3 hours with 3 or 4 people, and you make these deep relationships, and you never know where it's going to lead, right?
Yeah.
Like this person may know this person, and so you have that network effect where once you meet one person, then that one person knows 10 people, and then each one of those people knows 10 people, and you start connecting the dots. And what I found over time was that the most valuable piece is of any business is really that network effect.
Yeah.
And
And trust.
right.
When you know and like someone and gain a level of trust because you've eaten dinner and you've
Right.
had conversations, you can build something out of trust.
Yeah, and most of these small networks of people, that is a really great point, because trust is one of the most valuable commodities in those networks.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have trust, then you get excommunicated from the network pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so, you want to come in and be that guy. You want to be the right person. You want to meet people. You want to be there for the other folks that are in the network. But really, it's just about going out, connecting with people, and it's not always a business thing. I mean,
No.
I had the most fantastic experience was with all these events that I've done. Actually happened here at the Las Vegas event. This woman walks in, Vanessa. She came to an event that I held in Napa Valley back in May. Okay, she walks in, and this gentleman walks in behind her, maybe on a 10-second delay. His name was Daniel. I said, "Hey, Daniel, how's it going? Vanessa, hey, do you guys know each other?" And they're like, they look at me and they start laughing because they met at my event in Napa, and now they came to this event together, and
Oh,
they've
wow.
been dating for 6 weeks.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So now I'm a matchmaker
That's cool.
too.
You got matchmaking
I'm
skills.
a
huh?
matchmaker. I've been joking with her. I'm going to send her a bill now because I hear these people make a lot of money.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so
So
cool.
it's not just business,
Yeah.
I mean, you make friendships. You might even make a love connection.
Sure.
Who knows?
You never know.
And of course, there's the whole business side of it too. But what I found was that's the most valuable piece,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
And so I wanted to try to capture lightning in a bottle with that. So we started doing these events where we don't have classes, we don't have the speakers and all this kind of stuff. It's just the networking component of the event.
Yeah, and you
it's
just have a good time and get to know each other.
right, and then
I
that
like
spiders out into people end up coming the day before, they stay the day after. And so there's more that happens than just the event. The event's just the catalyst for all this stuff.
Well, and so that's how I know you. You
Right.
and I are a part of the Lion's Den, Sean
Yes.
Whalen's group, the Lion's Den, and you've been a part of that group almost a year.
About a year.
Yeah. And so we've been at a couple events together, but that's how we know each other.
Right.
And he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Vegas," and I said, "We need to get together." But it's a mastermind group, and we connect from people all over the world, really.
Yeah, and that's
every week.
That's another one of those where a gentleman by the name of Colby Kay did an event in Phoenix 3 or 4 years ago called Meltdown in the Desert, and Sean Whalen was a speaker at.
This is where I got this book.
Oh, is it
from
really?
Meltdown. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I went to Meltdown in the Desert #1.
Oh, and that's where you saw
and,
Sean.
and so at the time I knew Danny Page, and he's a guy, I believe he was even in the Lion's Den at one point, bodybuilder kind of guy, and so I went to the event to support Danny Page, and then Danny Page introduced me to Sean Whalen, and so Sean and I have kind of known each other, but been friends, and like not personally friends, but been in
Same
that same
circles.
orbit, you
Yeah.
know. And so it's interesting that, over the years, Sean and I have crossed paths at different events and things. And so I was like, I'm going to check out his Lion's Den thing and, see what he does. It's a little bit different than other people because, Sean's very passionate about what he does.
Sean is very unique in his communication skills, and I appreciate it, actually.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
it. It's very direct and very clear. So we're here today because Mike is a real estate investor,
Yes.
entrepreneur, and he's had a lot of success and a lot of failure in
Yep.
his career.
Exactly.
And how long ago was it that you were selling furniture to IHOP?
Oh gosh, that was right out of college, so 95, 96.
95, 96.
Yeah.
And that is right after that is when you bought your first commercial building?
Correct, yes.
So you've been doing real estate a long time.
Long time. Yes.
25 years
Yes.
ish.
Yep.
And we're about the same age. So
Correct.
my people, we know that's some years. And you've had some wins and some failures.
Of course, yeah.
Because I think it's important to bring that up because, like we talked a little bit, everybody thinks real estate, they're going to just hit it big and not have to do anything. Like, they're going to buy their one fix and flip and they're going to make $1 bazillion and they're not going to have to do anything with it. And I think it's important to talk about, like, it takes time to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose money, probably on the first X amount, and you're going to make money.
Right.
But what, in your opinion, for a beginning real estate investor that wants to go learn and get dirty, they're willing to get dirty, but maybe that doesn't have a lot of money, where should they start?
Well, I think the best place to start is with a realtor. So you have to find a local agent who really knows the market, okay?
We didn't even set that up. That was like totally organic.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that you have realtors that, and I...
Hey, I know you're not pro-realtor.
Well, it's not that I'm not pro-realtor. I am pro-realtor for the top 10% or so.
Yes.
Okay? I really have an issue with there being requirements like to be a used car salesman.
I agree.
And no requirements to be a realtor, right? Many states, if you sell used cars, you have to sell at least one a month or you can't keep your license to sell a used car.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
But do you have to do that to sell real estate?
No.
And so to me, that's a little, it's just so backwards.
Yeah,
And so to me, I think that there should be some production standards for realtors because it's too easy to get a license. It's too easy to become a realtor. And I don't think, I do believe that it is, and this will probably get some people yelling, but I do believe that it's malpractice of a realtor to get their license and then 10 days later be selling somebody a $1.4 million house.
Yeah.
It's malpractice because you're going to run up against a, let's say you're representing a friend who's buying this $1.4 million house and you're going to be running up against say a Coldwell Banker agent, or I don't even know what firm you're with, but whatever it is, every firm has these 3 or 4 men or women who, sell like 80% of the houses. And so you're going to run up against a man or a woman who does 82 transactions a year. This person is their first transaction. They're obviously not going to be represented to a point the same. And what happens is, these agents that sell 80 houses a year know every single sentence on that contract. I mean, backwards and forwards, and they memorize it. Yep. And so they can get their clients into a twist, and they can take advantage of other agents or get, an upper hand on the agent. So that piece of it, I really have a problem with. Now, agents, on the other hand, that are what I consider total ass kicker agents that are doing 40, 60 or more transactions a year, or they're really dedicated to a certain area, like they just sell a ton of houses in so-and-so golf community, or they sell like a ton of condos in one high-rise or something.
Yeah.
Those people I really have a lot of admiration for, and I think that they're super, super valuable.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest issue with the real estate space, is that I think that they've over-licensed agents.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to a certain extent. For sure. And I don't know, there's 17,000 agents in Vegas, in the Clark County area.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
However, there's like, 20% of them actually, or less than that, actually do any business.
Right, and so that's what I mean.
And so
I
how
think
do
you
you
should
find
have
that 20%?
You should have a production standard
Yeah.
where agents have to sell X number of houses before they can go out on their own. So they have to work under the wing of an experienced agent because there's a lot that those courses don't teach you. Right?
Absolutely. And a lot of brokers require that. They
Mhm.
do before they let their agent out loose.
Yeah.
Andrew, 20% of agents do 80% of the transactions. Exactly what we just
Yeah.
said. So it's important. Not all
Okay, so,
not all
yeah.
agents are created equal. So it's important to find a trusted
Yeah.
professional in your market.
So the easiest hack to do that is, let's say you live in Paducah, Kentucky, and you want to get into real estate investing, then the easiest hack is just jump onto Zillow and find those agents who, you can sort through the agents there. It'll show you how many transactions they've done over the past year. You can see some reviews. But I don't really like Zillow reviews because they're BS, because they don't pull every
They
single
don't pull
person.
everything.
They don't.
They don't pull all the houses.
Well, the agents select who to send the review to.
Yeah.
So, and obviously they're not going to send it to the bad ones. So the reviews are skewed, but you can find out like how many houses the agent sold, and then Zillow even maps them out. So you can go to a zip code and you can say, hey, I want to buy a house in this zip code, and it'll show you like little dots on the map how many and where those houses were that agent sold. So find somebody who's an expert in your area and who is doing a lot of business, knows the business backwards and forwards, and then meet with a few agents and find that agent that is really good at investment properties, because a lot of agents are not.
Correct.
There's a lot of agents that just like to sell rugs and drapes.
Yep.
They do houses just for folks that are moving in, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's what they do. And then there's a subsect of agents who really dig, the investment space, where they're selling rental houses, duplexes, fourplexes, small commercial buildings, things like that.
So what would be a good question to ask an investment realtor as an investor,
Mhm.
and I'm looking for a realtor that specializes in investments? What's a great question to ask? Because just because they say they're specializing in investment properties.
Well, ask them what they've sold recently. Hey, over the past year, have you worked with any investors?
Okay.
I mean, it really is that simple. Oh, really? Okay, great. So what kind of properties did they purchase? And then the agent will say, well, I sold a duplex to Larry, and, he moved into one side of it. He's renting out the other side, so he's kind of doing this house hack thing, which, I think for young people is a great way to go, by the way. Get a house with an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, as we call them in California, or a duplex or something like that. Live in one side, rent out the other. I know a lot of people over the years that have made a lot of money doing that.
That's a good point. Okay, great. So that's one way to go about
Mm-hmm.
doing it, would be with a realtor, obviously always with a realtor, but going down that route. But so there's a lot of talk about wholesaling and
Right.
Tax deed sales.
Sure.
There's all kinds of creative ways to do real estate. When you're brand new, what is your thoughts?
Well, that's the biggest problem with real estate, I think, and people breaking into the business. That exact
No.
thing is that there's so many flavors
Yes.
of real estate, okay? And you're not going to be a master at one. And you can go and find a guy or a woman that does really, really well wholesaling, okay? And they're doing 4 houses a month wholesaling, they're making a lot of money. But you can also go and find somebody else. You can find a woman who's, flipping 4 houses a month that's making great money also. But you can find a whole bunch of other people in both of those sectors that are losing their ass.
Yeah.
Okay, so you really have to find a flavor that you like and then pursue that one flavor and stick with it.
And I think there's a stomach for how much of a risk tolerance do you
Right.
have, and the type of person that you are, if you're going to lose at some point.
Sure.
And so how are you going to, what flavor is it that you have the stomach for?
Yeah, and what's your aptitude? I mean, not everybody's cut out to flip houses, right? I mean, do you want to run a construction crew? Do you want to, go and hire people? Do you want to, set up your own crew? Are you willing to take, risks that maybe you paint the house wrong or don't get the right permit on something? You come back and you get sued. There's just all kinds of things that go into it, and every piece of real estate, every flavor of real estate has issues with it, and so
Sure.
you have to become an expert in one flavor, master that, and then branch out into something else. There's nothing wrong with the tax deed sales. There's nothing wrong with wholesaling. There's nothing wrong with flipping. There's nothing wrong with long-term rentals, Airbnbs. I mean, industrial real estate, parking lots, car washes. I mean, we can go on and on,
Yeah.
right? Triple net leases. There's so many different things in real estate to get involved with, and all those things I've been involved with one way or another over the years. But I've found, 4 or 5 niches that work well for me. But I didn't start out with 4 or 5 niches. I started out with one thing, and then, mastered that, and then moved into another thing. And what you find is, as you become a really good flipper. On occasion, you're going to buy 5 or 6 houses, and you're only going to have the bandwidth to do 3, and so you wholesale out, house number 4 and 5 that's in your inventory that you actually own, but you haven't gotten to it yet, and you sell it to another, flipper and make 10 or 15 grand.
Yeah.
And so that's, in that piece of the business, the wholesaling piece, which is what we do. We do a lot of wholesaling, but the bulk of it is inventory homes. So we go in, we buy stuff, and then we're like, oh, you know what, we got this better deal. I think we can make $200,000 on this flip. We're only going to make $110,000 over here. So let's go ahead and wholesale out that $110,000 deal, and sell that to somebody for $15,000 spread.
So let's go back and tell your kind of your expertise that you're speaking on, because your specialty is in 3 counties in northern California, San Francisco area.
San Francisco Bay Area, right.
And that's some of the highest priced real estate probably in the country.
Yeah.
And I was, so how many approximate deals have you done in your 25 plus years of experience?
Oh, over 600.
Over 600 deals of different varieties.
Right, all different flavors.
Yep. And so when you first did your first commercial building, how did that even come about?
Well, that came about, the very first deal that I did came about because I was selling cars of all things, and I had purchased a very, very small little building on the side of the highway, and it was condemned via eminent domain for a highway expansion.
Oh.
And so I purchased the building, I think it was $83,000, and I think the state came in and paid $118 or something like that for it. So yeah, back then I thought that was all the money in the world.
That was like you hit it gold.
Right.
How long did you hold on to that building?
I think I had that maybe a little bit less than a year.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it just worked out really,
It worked out.
Worked out really well.
So that wasn't really a skilled job there. That was kind of a.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, I didn't target that
as
I didn't target that as a real estate deal, right? And then for whatever reason, when I look back on it, I'm like, why didn't it occur to me right then that the real estate was the way to go? I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. So I decided to go into the restaurant business, which I hated a lot.
That's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
So
I'm thinking
owned
about it
a restaurant?
now. Yeah, I owned IHOP restaurants.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, and so that's really what got me into the real estate sector was the IHOP restaurants, because I started these franchises. I was working in them, did not like the business, and so I went to sell them because I just wasn't happy doing it, right?
Now, does IHOP own their buildings?
No, back then I don't know how they do it now,
Okay.
but back then the way they did it was you could buy like a building that was a different restaurant, you could convert it into an IHOP. And so there was this whole play of doing that way back when. And so I did that several times, and then I decided I didn't like the business. So I put the buildings up for sale, I put the restaurants up for sale. I made a little bit of money selling the restaurants, but I made a whole shitload of money selling the real estate. Mm-hmm. So that's what really interested me in the real estate sector, and that's when I really pivoted hard into doing real estate.
Okay.
But it wasn't until that point, and that's when it really occurred to me, hey, you know what, there's really something here. There's a lot of money to be made in real estate. And so, yeah, I've been toiling in this, though, for many, many years. And so a lot of people, look at me today and say, oh, well, he doesn't, he's not really doing real estate or whatever. The thing is, I've been doing it for a really long time. And so I think I'm a great example of what real estate can provide, what kind of lifestyle it can provide to a person. If you're really smart about investing in real estate, you're really smart about what you buy, you hold it for long-term periods. And you and I talked about this when you first got here. Was, a big part of the real estate business right now is there's a lot of people that want to tell you, oh, it's really fast money or it's really quick money, and it just isn't.
No.
To have long-term generational wealth in real estate and to build that for, your family or your heirs or whoever you're building it for, or to give it to charity. In order to do that, you have to have assets that are cash flowing assets that you own for a very long period of time.
So now in your portfolio, because I know you do a handful of different things.
Right.
you have Airbnb in the Napa Valley area.
Yeah, I would do Airbnb in Napa Valley and the surrounding counties.
And do you own in like any apartment buildings?
Yeah, we do long-term rentals, single-family homes, small multifamilies, things of that nature.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have your.
I don't have any 100-unit apartment buildings. I never went in that sector that deeply, but on small rental properties, yes, duplex, fourplex, eightplex, single-family homes, and then we do the Airbnb. So.
What's interesting is because your area and your specialty in your area is some of the highest priced real estate in the country.
Correct.
And I think that is really fascinating to me because sometimes people think it can't be done in areas
Right.
like
I mean,
that
yeah, I hear that all
because it's so expensive.
I hear that all the time. I mean, all the time, that you can't do real estate here because whatever that X factor is, it doesn't allow you to do it. And,
Yeah.
and that's simply not true. So real estate can be done anywhere. I mean, I just picked up now there's 9 counties that surround San Francisco. You got 9 counties in the San Francisco Bay Area. One of those counties, I picked up a fourplex less than a year ago for $350,000. Each unit rents for $2,000 a month. So that's a great property, right? And that's
not a good area.
it was an okay area.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, not the best, but not the worst. And but the point is that you can find properties that are distressed or need renovation or whatever it is, or somebody needs to sell for some reason. Somebody inherits a property, doesn't want to do it, and doesn't want to fix the roof and do all the stuff, and they just want to get the money and go. So there's all kinds of reasons why people sell, and some go with realtors and fix the house up and go the full retail route,
Yeah.
and some don't. Some
Yeah.
just want to liquidate quickly.
So how do you find your I don't know if this is secret, but I mean,
Yeah.
how do you find people that may be in a situation?
Well, so what we do is, one of the things that we've found a lot of success with is providing liquidity. So we basically inject liquidity into the market. So let's say you're a landlord and you're a moderately successful landlord. You own 5 properties, you're 80 years old. So one of the biggest issues, as a realtor is how do you, if you have these disparate assets, okay, where you own a duplex here, 2 zip codes over you own a single family home, another zip code over you own a fourplex, okay, and then you got a couple single family homes scattered throughout. The biggest issue with that landlord, the biggest problem with that landlord is that how do I sell these assets that I've owned for 35 years? Because if you sell, you've got a massive tax bill.
Yeah.
But if you, and so what do? You want to trade it to a 1031 exchange. How do you do that when you have multiple assets? Because as you know, as a realtor, it is impossible to get 2 houses to close on the same day, let alone 5 or 10 or 12, right? If you put them all out there for sale, each one's listed separately, it's not possible, okay? And with the timelines and the triggers in a 1031 exchange, you got 45 days to identify your trade asset. It just can't be done. So that's where we step in. So we'll inject liquidity into the market by doing that. So we'll go to a landlord that has these properties. They usually have deferred maintenance because the landlord should have sold 10 years ago and they didn't.
Yeah.
And they just got tired, older, didn't put money back into the assets, so now they're living off of their R&M budget and the rents. Okay? Usually they start to get scared because they don't raise rents, so now the market rents have fallen below market, so the asset's worth less money. So they have all these problems, and they should have sold years before when they were still agile and on top of the properties.
Well,
so,
and if the property's not in that great a shape, people probably aren't paying on time either.
exactly. So you
Yeah.
have this cascade of problems that happens. And in each year it gets worse and worse. And so that particular landlord is like, what do I do? I've got 5 assets, or I've got 12 assets, or 40 assets. They're all in different locations. I want to sell. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I just want to get my money and trade into, a larger, like say an $8 million Walgreens on a 40-year triple net lease.
Yeah.
And I want to hand that off to my heirs when I pass away. And I certainly don't want to hand off, 32 rundown rental properties, which nobody wants,
Yeah.
right? So that's where I step in. My partner and I, we will put together a package where we purchase all of those properties on the same day, okay? So we close out, essentially liquidate this landlord out of his situation, and then we take control of those assets. And we do this for a discount. But the flip side is he doesn't have a tax liability, right? And he's able to sell everything. We don't do inspections. We don't, go and do a termite report and a roof inspection, a foundation inspection, and all this. We have our own crews. We know what we're buying. We can walk through a property one time and say, and even if we do have a foundation problem, who cares? I mean, we jacked up many a house and we jack them up and put a foundation and put them back down and keep going.
Yeah.
And so what we do is, we'll take control of the asset. We pay off the landlord. The landlord is able to sell everything on the same day. They're able to avoid 100%, it's a 100% tax-free transaction for the landlord. So they go into a 1031 exchange and they buy something else. It's great for them and it's great for us because we get the properties at a discount. We don't have a lot of competition doing this because not a lot of people can come up with, $1.8 million or $3.3 million or $6 million or whatever it is and close out all of these rental properties at one time, right? And then what we do is then we take a look at that portfolio property by property and we decide, hey, this one's actually in pretty good condition. We can go ahead and just list that with a realtor, and so we list it and we sell it. This one might make a really good long-term rental, but we've got 2 tenants who aren't paying, 2 that are, place is falling apart, clear the place out, redo everything, renovate it, and then reload it with tenants, and maybe we'll sell it at that point. So each asset we look at and we try to maximize the value.
Different.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you might have 8 assets and each one might end up in Airbnb, 2 we might end up holding on as long-term rental, and the rest we either fix and flip or wholesale out. Sometimes we just buy them and we'll resell them. We'll take that portfolio in, and literally 48 hours later we'll break off 2 of those and sell them to somebody. And so we'll just wholesale those out and make quick spread on those.
So that's a great point because I was thinking about this earlier. Is that everybody wants a deal?
Yes.
Right. Everybody wants a deal, of course.
Right.
But when you don't have cash, cash is king. Cash is king. When the real estate market crashed here in Vegas, the only people buying houses were cash buyers.
Yes.
We had Canada buyers, China buyers. We had people from all over buying, but they were all cash. And so I was thinking about this today about, save your money. Like, really, to get a good deal. Mm-hmm. Not that it's the only way, but he's talking about getting a discount in a portfolio of property because they have the cash to do it.
Right.
That's why they can make this work for this particular seller and lots of different sellers, is because they have the means to do it. And not that you need $1.8 million to do a real estate deal. But even if you're doing single family.
Yeah, what's the average sales price in Vegas? Like $200,000? $300,000. So, if you look at that, and if you could buy a fixer for say $220, okay, and everything's selling in the neighborhood for $350.
Oh.
At $220, you're only going to need 20% of that down to do a hard money loan in most cases. And if maybe you have poor credit or you got some issues, then 30% down. But they won't even look at that stuff. At that point, if you're putting 30% down, you get a hard money loan for the purchase price and the rehab money. But you do need some cash to get into it.
For sure. That's my point. Is just saying that cash is king. Right. You're not going to get a screaming deal on a 100% loan or
it's not 3%, 5%,
20%.
Right.
So anyway, I love that. See, a lot of the business that you do is portfolio because you can get the deepest discount helping somebody out.
Right. Exactly.
I like that. That's good. And so, do you do a lot of mailers, a lot of marketing?
All of our stuff is, the only thing that we don't do, we do all the traditional marketing. People in the market know that, we can provide that liquidity. So, even on, like, say, a real estate agent, we had a deal that came to us last year as an example where a real estate agent had listed the house on a Monday, had realized that the house was in notice of default. Okay, so the person who owned it hadn't paid their mortgage in quite some time, and they had a pending foreclosure date, auction date. Well, she thought it was a little further out, and she did a little research on it and found out, hey, I listed this house on Monday. The foreclosure auction is this Friday. So there's no way to get the house on the market.
No.
And have it, broadcast out to all the agents, get people through there. People do their inspections, get their loans and everything, and have all that done in 4 days.
No.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where we get a call. So an agent knows us, and they'll say, "Hey, I've got this deal. there's no way I can sell this thing, you know, on the open market. It's got to close by Friday, which means you really have to fund it on Thursday. We got to record Friday morning before the, you know, 11 a.m. auction. Can you do that? And if so, can you let her stay in the house for 90 days, rent it back to her for $1, you know, all that kind of, that's all the kind of stuff that we do.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll say, yeah, okay, we'll close it on Thursday. You know, we got to get a discount, you know, if she's going to rent it back, we'll rent it back for free, you know, basically.
Rent it back for free?
Well, for $1 or something
Wow,
like that.
really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, where are they going to go in
Yeah,
4 days?
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just they've lived in the house, you know, for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
And so you do whatever you can to make a deal happen. And if the numbers work and we can go in and renovate the property and then put a renter in there and it makes sense, then we'll do it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I have cash buyers. They're always my first call.
Mhm.
My relationships that we talked
Sure.
about, the people that we've done a lot of business with, and the numbers work. It works.
Yeah,
but
they just move on
they're
it,
always the first ones we call for sure. So
Yeah.
again, having an established real estate agent relationship is important.
Yes, very.
Yeah. And so what else? Like mailers.
We do mailers. We do the networking with agents. We do networking with other, you know, wholesalers, flippers, investors out there that, you know, trade deals just like we do. We buy. Let's say we go in and liquidate a small portfolio of 3 properties, and one of them is in our target area, and the other 2 are an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
We might buy those, but we're certainly not going to go flip them. We're certainly not going to hold them as rentals. But I might know somebody who's over in that market, and I say, hey, you know, we paid $100,000 for each one of these. They're worth, you know, $140 or whatever as rental properties. Just, you know, pay us $10,000 on each one. We'll make a quick 20 grand and move on down the road.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So.
Andrew, I'm a cash buyer. Hi, Andrew. Land. Do you do land?
Not generally.
That's a long-term thing. That's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
really long-term
and there's so many
thing.
different ways to do land. It's just not. It's not a flavor I'm interested in.
Have you
Yeah.
tasted that flavor before?
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
I've dealt with some land transactions, you know, and sometimes in the portfolio stuff we'll end up with a vacant
Yeah.
lot or something and have to sell it off. In my area it's a little different than other areas. It takes a very long time to get permits. There's very onerous regulation in doing business anywhere in the San Francisco Bay Area with building permits and code compliance, etc. So it's just generally it's not really worth it for an investor to do a new construction deal.
Okay, all right. Because I know our friend in the Lion's Den, Monique, she does some land
Okay.
out. Have you seen any of her stuff?
I have not.
Yeah, she's been buying some land and flipping it.
Oh, that's great.
But it's somewhere. I don't even know where.
Yeah.
So that's another good thing as a tip for a new investor.
Mhm.
We talked about this earlier. Having maybe for your first few deals doing something local. Do you suggest that versus doing something that you can't?
This
see
is a
and
pet
touch?
peeve of mine.
I know. So let's
yeah,
talk about
this is
that.
a huge pet peeve of mine. It drives me freaking insane.
Okay. So what?
Okay. I don't understand people who think that they're going to become a master at being, like, say, a landlord in Ohio if they can't master being a landlord in Riverside, California.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, how is that going to translate? I mean, and if so, why don't you do it where you are? I mean, I just gave you an example where in the San Francisco Bay Area, I picked up a fourplex for $350,000, right? So you can buy assets that cash flow in any market, whether it be Manhattan, Miami, Napa Valley, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego. I'm just rattling off some of the most expensive markets.
For sure.
And if you can do it there, then you can certainly do it in Ohio, Kentucky, Missouri, and Mississippi and Alabama, and some of these markets that you hear a lot about, like, oh, I'm going to go there because houses are only $12,000. Well, they're $12,000 for a reason, right?
But he wants them.
Yeah, it comes with this whole set of other issues, right? I mean, in my market, if you have, like, I had this duplex that had a vacancy, I think it was like last year or something, and we did a 15-minute open house. It was a 1-bedroom rental unit, okay, month to month, long-term rental.
Okay.
15-minute open house on a Saturday, had 52 applicants. So that's what the housing market's like in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
Now you go to Mississippi, an hour and a half outside of Mobile in the middle of Mississippi, yeah, you can probably buy a place for 12 grand.
Yeah.
You also aren't going to find a renter for 12 months.
Yes,
So,
you're not going
I
to have
mean,
52
right, so
applicants.
you have these trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
And so I always say just master where you're at, become, the 800-pound gorilla in the market that you're in, and then once you're a master there, then maybe move to another one. I mean,
Yeah.
I have more deals than I can handle in the market I'm in, and my market is hyper-competitive. I mean, every turn that you go on, there's bandit signs up, there's I continually go to houses that have 9 different letters from 9 different, fix and flip people, wholesalers, realtors, whatever
Open
it is.
door, yep.
Everybody,
Vote,
right.
Cash buyer,
So,
iBuyer.
I'm in a hyper competitive market, and we have far more transactions than we can do. I mean, we're always going out. My partner and I have a private equity fund, and we're constantly trying to source additional capital to pursue more transactions, and that's just in the little area that we operate in. I can't even imagine going to another area.
Yeah.
So
Opportunity everywhere.
there is opportunity everywhere. The deal of the century comes along every week.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it, like what you're doing, is connecting with the right types of people. I had some clients join a real estate investment networking group. Those are great places to go, but there's also shady people there too. So having the relationships with people, there was somebody there, trying to sell them some course or something.
Oh, yeah.
Coming off as it's actually a new agent that was telling me this. He's a new agent trying to meet other people to learn about
Right.
the business because he got his license but didn't know anything.
Sure.
But there was, people after him trying to sell him some course or something. And so, aligning with the right people so that you get hooked up with learning.
Exactly.
And so, did you have a mentor when you got started?
My mentor was the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
That's a great
So
book.
I know people are always like, oh, that's so common or it's so basic. But listen, that really is people ask me all the time, well, what should I read? There's a couple great real estate books out there. There's a zillion real estate books out there. There's a couple really great ones. And Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's not going to give you all the mechanics. You got to read between the lines, right? I mean, he implies a lot. It's like reading Hemingway or something. There's a lot there. It's the iceberg theory of writing, but there's a lot there. But read that book if you're really into real estate investing. But the most important thing is just attend live events, like RIA meetings and things like that, and like the events that I hold, that we talked about at the beginning of this. And I'm not saying come to my event, go to any event, but there's always real estate people. You and I were in Salt Lake City together,
everything
3 or 4 weeks ago, right? And I think there were 125 people or 150 or whatever it was there, and out of those 150 people, I think there was probably 10, real estate flippers or investors or whatever there. So that's 10 people that you could talk to for 3 days, right? And that's at an event that's not a real estate event. I mean, my events aren't necessarily real estate events. I mean, there's a lot of people that, will talk to me about real estate, or we'll go out on the patio and smoke a cigar, and, and I'll learn from them and they'll learn from me.
Sure.
And there's great networking that happens over the course of time. So a big part of it is just building up your own network and
getting around the right people.
Yeah, getting around the right people and finding your flavor of real estate, and then pursuing that with a very specific passion, direct purpose to get there.
Your Blue Chip Lounge Facebook group.
Yes.
What's that about?
I'm not really sure. I'll be honest with you. We've changed it a little bit. So it was originally Blue Chip Flips. Okay. And it's on Facebook. It's just a closed group, but it's not like a paid group, or I don't, hey, you can't come in here kind of thing. I'm not sure what it's going to become. Part of the thing is I enjoy real estate, but I think that at the end of the day, there's so many people out there selling real estate courses, and they're gurus and all this kind of stuff. I don't sell any courses. I don't have anything to promote in that respect. I mean, I literally don't sell anything.
Yeah.
If you want to come to one of my events, great. And if not, that's great too. I mean, they're not money makers for me. I do it for my own networking.
Yeah, exactly.
So I originally set that up just for folks to talk about flipping houses, and then it started to morph a little bit into other things. And so I think it's going to become probably more of like a lifestyle kind of thing with a real estate flavor. But let's be honest, there's guys out there that all they do is talk about real estate all day. and it just gets freaking boring.
I agree.
It just gets boring.
Come buy a house from me. I know.
Yeah.
It gets annoying.
And it's like, how many times can we talk about how to wholesale a house, or how many times can we talk about, how to get a hard money loan to buy a flip, right? All that stuff's out there. The information's out there. I'm happy to sit down with people and talk to them about it. I don't charge people to do that. If I charge anything, I'll tell people not to sound like pompous or arrogant, but I can't really get to my direct messages. I'm at a point now where there's so much stuff going on, that I'll get like 10 or 15 a day. People asking me stuff, and my standard response is, hey, I'm doing an event on X. Just come there, and I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there for 2 or 3 days. So, if you want to come a day early, you want to come stay a day late, you want to go grab, dinner one night or breakfast in the morning, or whatever. I mean, I was downstairs, we're here at the Palms Casino and Resort right now filming this, and right before I met with you, I was downstairs with 2 gentlemen having lunch with them. And then I came up here 15 minutes before you got here.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just a lot of
You're busy.
time. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so I don't have time to chat with you specifically on the DMs. You could go into the Blue Chip Flip group, and I try to get in there. I've been spending a lot of time on Twitter, Instagram, and then Facebook's probably the third. I've kind of trended away from Facebook a little bit. I don't know why. It's just the way it's worked out.
So Twitter has been really easy for you to respond. Well, and they're quicker.
I enjoy
smaller.
Twitter because I'm probably a little bit more. I mean, my mother is a poet, and she's an artist, and so I feel that I have some of that inside of me, and that's probably why I like real estate so much. Is it is a creative outlet for me. I do feel like I'm a very, very creative person, but I haven't really embraced that. I've always been very money motivated above the creativity, but
Well, you got to be creative in real estate.
Absolutely.
Because it always is like, ooh, sharp left turn.
Yes.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, there's
And
so much stuff.
It's very
Yeah.
creative.
And-
or we'll put it together this way or that
right.
way. Yeah.
One of the most fascinating things to me in real estate is how two men or 2 women can walk onto a piece of property, and there could be a building there, could not be a building there, and come up with 2 completely different ways to maximize the value of
Or
the
4
asset.
different ways.
To me,
that
that is
different ways.
fascinating.
I agree.
Love
It's so
that.
exciting,
yeah,
isn't
I
it?
love that, and
I
that's
love
the
that.
creative side of the business. So I do love that a lot.
Yeah.
But so I tell people get into Blue Chip Lounge, go in there. I'll answer questions in there when I can. The guys that are like, I have a lot of people that I'm mentoring right now. I mean, I got like 4 or 5 people that I'm working with, and again, I don't charge these guys anything. These are guys that literally came to events, and now we're working on a deal or 2 together.
That's awesome.
And so they're
That's the relationship.
so they're in Blue Chip Lounge, and so they answer a lot of questions in there. Sometimes they'll tag me and say, hey Mike, can you comment on this? And I'll jump in there and do it, or sometimes I just forget to go in there. But yeah, if you really want to connect with me on that stuff, Twitter's probably the best place, then Instagram, then Facebook. So that's kind of, where...
So anybody can join that lounge?
Yeah, anybody can go in there. It's Blue Chip Lounge, and it's on Facebook. And yeah, they just go in there, and then my virtual assistant, I think they ask for how many transactions you've done. Doesn't matter if you've done 0, but we want to know that. And then it asks for your email address. If you don't put that down, then that's the only requirement. So if you don't have an email or don't want to give it out, then don't go in the group.
Which honestly, I don't think I've even received anything on my email.
Right, we don't. Yeah,
It's not like you
at
mark
some
it
point.
and
Yeah,
they might.
at some point, what we'll probably do is send out an email to folks that are in that group and invite them to the events.
Yeah.
Because that's really.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah, and so we'll probably do that at some point. We just haven't done that yet, and it's like another one of those things. I'm not doing this, and I'm not in it to make money off of
The group.
selling you a
Yes.
ticket to an event.
Yeah.
And I'm not a coach. I don't have books to promote. I'm not a guru selling a course. I'm not a public speaker. I mean, you just don't do that stuff. Right now, I'm focused on my podcast. I'm focused on doing these events that I like doing, and trying to get myself in better physical shape. So I'm working out a lot. I don't eat better yet, but I'm going to work on that next. So it's a slow progression.
Yeah, and you're just going and doing it. You're
Yeah.
not waiting to get everything ready to go and then go do it all at once. You're doing the Blue Chip Lounge, throw it out there. You're
Right.
doing the podcast, you're doing the
Right.
events, and you're figuring out as you go.
Yes.
I love that about you.
Yeah.
Because when I saw you in at the event here in February.
Mhm.
You hadn't started these events yet. You were just talking about doing the event. Maybe
Oh
you
yeah,
did
that's
one.
right. That was
And
in
then-
January.
in
You
January.
Yes. Okay.
And that was the beginning of it. And you're like, well, I have this idea and I'm going to go do it. So now
Right.
you've done 4 or
Yeah,
5.
the event thing is like one of those things. I mean, I always say, hey, you try 4 or 5, 6, even 7 things, and maybe one of them works. A lot of stuff doesn't work. In the event thing, I didn't really think it was going to work, and then this event here sold out like almost immediately. We did no advertising, so I think that we finally got over the hump where they're unique, they're kind of quirky events, they're different than what other people do, and it's really. It's just a cool event. They're really, really cool. You got some really interesting, cool people that show up.
I love that.
And so that piece of it,
Works.
it turned out that works, that people want that. And so now that we're selling those events out, I'm sure I'll do another one probably pretty soon.
I, a couple weeks ago, had the opportunity to meet Steve Sims. Do you know Steve?
Oh yeah, I do, yeah.
He talks about his events and the
Yes.
things that he puts on, and you have to have a password to get into it.
Right, he does
I thought
like
that is
40
so
people,
cool.
yeah, per event,
And he
very
does-
limited.
But he does like weird things. Like you had the,
Yes.
the trainer guy come teach
Yes.
you how to do crafts. He
Right.
said, you know, it's not necessarily a class, but it's something unique
Right.
and an experience.
Very interesting, yeah. And I
Yeah.
just learned about Steve Sims over the past month or two and started digging into his stuff, and I'm pretty fascinated. I think I'm going to go to some of his events.
I saw him. He spoke at the Realtor Conference here 2
Okay.
weeks ago. Phenomenal. I got his
Yeah.
book, and he does have some YouTube stuff.
Yeah,
Awesome.
right.
Listen to him. He's
Very
very,
interesting
very good.
guy,
But
yeah.
that would be. He has some really good ideas for your whiskey and cigar event.
Right.
That's what I'm calling him. I think you should call it whiskey and cigar event
That's a great idea.
because I think it sounds fun.
It does.
Mindset Squared is your podcast. What is that about?
Mindset Squared is another one of these things where I do the podcast with my co-host Mike Cernovich, and so Mike, has a very large following, very large and engaged following. So that's why I do the podcast.
And Mike is the author.
Yeah, author, filmmaker, etc. And he is just a really interesting guy. I've heard a lot of people over the years say that he is the Ernest Hemingway of our day. I mean, he's got a best-selling book. He's got several films out. He's an interesting, very interesting person more so. He dabbles in the politics side of things, and he's got a lot of different interests, but a lot of different types of followers, and very well-heeled, affluent followers, and just a really engaged audience. So when I had the chance to do a podcast with somebody like that, I jumped at it. It wasn't necessarily that I was setting out to do a podcast. It's just that, wow, here's a great opportunity to do it. And Mike and I really enjoy doing it. We're up to, I think, a little over 40,000 listeners per
Subscribers, that's great.
which is just insane for a small podcast like
That
that.
you just started a few months ago.
Right.
The beginning of this year.
Beginning
or
of this
something?
year, yeah. So
That's
it's got a really pretty massive reach for a little tiny podcast, and we talk about pretty much everything. I mean, the last podcast we did, we talked about how to write a book, because obviously Mike's got a book, but I talked about real estate the one before that, but we've talked about all kinds of different stuff. I mean, whiskeys and cigars and how to do a live event, how to be an Instagram, influencer person, which he's got a lot of following on Instagram. So it's just it's not just like an entrepreneurship thing, and it's not just for like gym bros or anything like that. It's, for people that have like a really, I would say, a high level of consciousness, a very educated, free thinker type person.
I love it. But
So-
it's every week at what time?
We do it, we broadcast live every week, Sundays at 9 a.m. And then the audio is packaged and put onto iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff as a podcast, usually 24, 48 hours later.
That's pretty
Yeah.
quick.
But we're on, like YouTube and all that stuff too.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. Is there a thank you
yes, you
for
bet.
coming
Oh,
today? Is there
yeah.
anything that we didn't cover that you want?
No, I mean, if you're watching this or you happen to catch this and you're in Las Vegas, feel free to reach out. I'm going to head over to Casa Fuente and smoke some cigars here with a couple guys in the next few minutes. So,
Awesome.
if anybody wants to drop by there, I'll be there for a few hours.
You might get some stalkers.
Well, come on by.
Thank you.
All right,
Mike.
thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
My friends, we'll see you soon.
Yep, talk soon.